Hello. Going live. And hello, everyone. I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hank.
And we're here on the front lines, on the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. How's it going, Tank?
Today was just a wonderful day, actually. I was getting some reports from Kim. I know she was working with the IT from the post office, which, my God, it just feels so much better to say that rather than the bank, right? So I'm very excited that it's going to break through. She did give me a message, right, that she wants to go viral.
Okay.
So, and I put out a 5-minute video just now, like literally seconds ago, on the Speed Project that everybody can share. But I'm gonna tell you here too. But I'm just saying you can also just grab that and share it, right? But she gave a message and she said, can we stop the conjob? Oh no, I'm sorry. Can we stop the CIA Black Sun conjob19 already now? And then she said in all caps, it failed. And she wanted to put that out. She said, tell people to put it in their front lawns everywhere, have it go viral because this is all ridiculous, And because at the end of the day, they were taking this opportunity to try to cripple us and take us out.
Yeah.
But because she just launched the post office, she just beat them. So they failed. This was like their big last attempt. Now they haven't even do anything as far as tough. I mean, maybe I'm over the top on that, but that's kind of who I
am. The message is they failed. Hashtag what? Hashtag post offices are now banks, or banks are now post offices.
No. I think she just branded her she branded her own thing here. So here, stop. Wait.
Hashtag stop.
Wait, what is it? Let me just get it exactly right.
Drum roll, please.
It is, can we end the CIA Black Sun conjob19 now? You failed. She just texted me a minute ago. She said, she says she's so over the Dr. Green, a.k.a. Mangle, a.k.a. Black Sun, a.k.a. CIA, a.k.a. CODIS operation.
Yes. Yeah. Send me that. Yeah, that text, and I'll change the name of this broadcast, number one, and put it in the tags down below. But stop CIA con job, hashtag stop CIA con job. Stop CIA con job COVID-19. Yeah.
I sent it to you right now. It's in your telegram. Everyone needs to put a sign on their front lawns. Can we end the CIA Black Sun conjob19 now? You failed.
Got it.
I gotta tell you, I'm pretty in tune with Kim's energy. You know, when she's cut off, but when she's open like this, it is such a marked difference in everything, to be honest. When she's feeling this way, it's because she's put in all this work and she's broke through on something major. But this is more major than usual, right? This is the something that everyone speculated on, but I don't think anyone really knew how to do, you know. And she just launched it, and she's clearly in a fun mood, you know. And she's sick and tired of that all the non-stop racket that is going on. I mean, think how insulting this is, right? You're the one, right? You are the one who supplied the food, you supplied the venue, you know, you're the one that cooked it, right? You're the one serving it, right? And you're watching all these people sit down to eat and devour this food, but they don't offer you a seat at the table. They sit there and they rave about someone else who didn't even cook the food. They're talking about the ingredients, and every time they mention the ingredients, they're all wrong. And you sit there the whole time trying to explain politely, and you know, and they are not, and they don't listen. They sit there glutting themselves while you're sitting there hungry. That's kind of what I feel like. Freaking, you know, she's put all this time and all this effort, all this energy, right? For the most part, for a lot of people who don't give a damn about her, right? And they turn their back on her, right? And it's like all that's ever been needed. All that's ever been needed is just an ounce of cooperation. You know, somebody in one of these hierarchy, you know, the hegemony of the order, right? To say, oh my God, what have we been doing? Yeah, of course we're working. We'll take your away, you know, something, right? Somebody to take responsibility. But they're so used to just getting away with anything. Candace Owens said this today. She put this out there. She said, she goes, why bring up charges on people in the government and point out their crimes if no one ever gets arrested, no one ever gets tried?
Right.
But there's got to be a shift, right? Because General Flynn appears to be in the clear.
Yeah. You know, I actually, the name of this broadcast before you came on was General Flynn gave us new orders, or gave us orders, something like that. I don't know, I changed it already. But because he put a letter out through Bards of War, and I wanted to go through that, but it's pretty long, so let's focus a little bit more on you know, what Kim is telling us here before we get into something else. Yeah, it's kind of related anyway, because General Flynn's message is you know, basically it's time for us to stand up. Right? It's time to take action. You know, I was saying hashtag, you know, how to come up with a hashtag for this. I think Kim's right. Put a sign on your lawn. Put a sign on your lawn. Put a sign on your door, right? If you don't have a lawn, put it on your door. Just print it up, you know, tape it to your front door, you know, because that way everyone will see it and it cannot be censored, other than someone come around and tearing it down, right? But this is a political sign too, so then there's issues with that. But that might be a very good way to go. Put it on a sign.
Yeah. I mean, you know, to me, it really comes down to, if Kim says it can go viral, I kind of feel like she could probably let it, right? She could probably let it flip out there and go nuts. Let everybody hear it, start doing it. I mean, probably. Like, I don't know that she's ever done anything like that, but I feel like she probably could. You know, and maybe it's time. Maybe she's like, you know, if you put it up, maybe that's all it takes. Is she just puts a little drop like that, and she tells us to put it out there. We put it out, and all of a sudden, everybody's catching on.
Yeah.
You know, catches like wildfire.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking as we're going here. You know, I'm posting it, you know, so everyone has it. Put this on your lawn. Put it on your door. You know, put it on a sign on your car. Well, no one can drive, so. Anyway, everyone should drive now. Actually, probably this is the time to, you know, ignore them. Right? Really, you know, because they are not listening to the science. You know, it's funny, these governors are coming out and talking about, well, we're following the science. We're going with the science. Sorry, the science is saying something other. It's just that you're censoring those that are saying do other. And even the World Health Organization has changed their model. They said Sweden has the right model. So this is new. So now they're saying the YouTube is only going to support what the WHO says, the World Health Organization. Well, they just now said we're going to support Sweden's model, not shelter in place. So what are you going to do, YouTube?
Yeah, that's really it. So what does Sweden do?
Sweden did not. They did light social distancing, but didn't close anything.
So is that like 3 feet?
Well, I don't know, but it was on Tucker Carlson today.
Oh, okay.
So it's a, you know, he's pointing it out and said the WHO is saying this, right? Well, so because he's coming down on these governors, especially like Maine, right? And he had someone on that is going to open their restaurant in defiance, right? And all the sales tax he collects he's going to use to hire an attorney and not give it to the state.
You know, it's fascinating. Because people really see what's deadly about this more than even, or not more, but just in a different way that is really even possible to report on, right? I guess I kind of had to report on, right? My son went with his mom out yesterday, and they were delivering food and helping out people that, you know, really didn't have the means or, you know, the ability to go get things for themselves, right? So the elderly, and but elderly that were on their own, right? And you know, my son's, he's just like me, right? So he's talking to everybody and, you know, making friends with these old ladies, and they're very sweet. They love him, right? So like, you know, they're sending him back and forth to the store to get like oatmeal, and he comes back with it. And it's like, no, I need this slow cook, and he's kind of like trying to say, like, I don't think you understand that there's nothing on the shelves, right? No, but one of the things that happened. So that was yesterday, right?
Yeah. So
today, his phone's blowing up with all these people that he went to see because they're so lonely. So they're so happy to have him come in, right? So they called him and talked to him, you know, just to say thank you. And like the kid was on the phone for like 5 hours today with these people because they're just so happy to connect with somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just thinking to myself, now you can't quantify exactly, I guess, you know, the impact of being lonely and depressed and feeling isolated and scared, right?
Well, it really depresses your immune system, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely it does. And I mean, we know this even with kids, right? Like when they separate the kids from their parents, that they're, you know, Ron Davis said this. I don't know where he got this from. He goes, these kids died from depression. They're so distraught. They're so broken. They die. And I don't know. I haven't looked to back that up. But it just makes so much sense to me. Because I can work myself into tears just thinking about not seeing my kids,
Yeah.
right? Imagine being a kid, right? I mean, how much more you're just dependent on, how much you're just so connected to your parents. I mean, if they're in your life like that, right? As they should be, right? So I'm just thinking about this, and it's just crazy.
You reminded me, because you talked about your son. So I just tell a little story about my son. When we used to go out for sushi, the whole family. Even when the kids are young, we would still take them to sushi. Of course, it's not on top on their list, of to have raw fish, right? It's like
right.
But it took after a while though. My son, really liked sushi. In fact, when we would go at like the age of like maybe 7 years old, maybe even 6, he would come in and we would go to the booth, right? Go sit at a booth for this waitress to come over. But my son would go over to the sushi bar and he'd place his own orders. And of course, the sushi chefs are really fascinated, right? And they cater to him, right? So, and just interesting. It just reminded me because you were bringing that up. I said that's one of the moments. I even remember going back to the same sushi spot, and my son's already an adult, but the sushi spot's still there. And they'll say, "Hey, how's your son doing?" He's fine. But just interesting. I just thought I'd throw that in because it was something I hadn't remembered for quite a long time. That's was always a fun time. Seeing my son, acting like a little adult, right? Corresponding with all the everyone, because you said your son just corresponds with all the adults. That's what I used to do. I mean, I when I was young, I remember I always was speaking with all the adults, seeing what was going on.
Yeah, my son's like that too.
Yeah.
So we actually re-roll those things.
So anything else from Kim? What else? Any more on this particular thing? She's made the banks into branches of the post office. All right, and so what does how does that? Do we know how this translates into how money flows into our hands? Do we get postal money orders? Do we know any of this yet?
It's definitely. I mean, so the post office has always had the capacity to do this, right? So that means they clearly must have the terminals, right? They're using probably for tracking mail and other things, right? But I would imagine, it's the same terminal and the same whatever, right? Now, if she's talking to the IT department, that means, she's either they have an IT team already, and all of a sudden they can do something new. But I mean, I think you've always been able to get money orders at the post office, right? Yeah. But I don't think it's going to come in the form of money orders, because that would just be horribly inefficient, right?
Sure. Yeah. No, I get it.
But I think what's going to happen is there's just going to be a new app. It'll just be suddenly Trump will come out and say, "Hey, we got a new post office app, and we're going to make sure everybody gets their money this way. We just found it to be more efficient." Right. So it's all set to go.
The IRS is too bogged down, so we found the post office is a good way to go. So I did check with my banking friends in England, right? And they did acknowledge that the post office there is also our banks, right? And they have the most up-to-date and financial system.
Really?
Yeah. And they said actually worldwide only 35 countries do.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So but anyway, I haven't heard anything more after I dropped that on them yesterday about is it?
Yeah.
But it's enough, because from the day before I'd asked about the post offices being connected, say with the Bank of England, or how does that function there? But it does. It's connected. So worldwide. That'll be interesting to see how this flows. Because there's post offices in every country. That's interesting. Is it's the only bank that has branches in every country. To think about it.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, it's a surefire way to go international, like truly international, right?
Yeah. And I can see right now, like all the guys in the clown boardrooms, like going, "Ah, how did we miss this? The post office."
What were we thinking? Why did we put so much money into killing people? So crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, quite the circus right now. I mean, people got to be turning on each other everywhere. And there was some reports that came out from this one woman on YouTube who's pretty consistent. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I've seen her stuff a couple times. And she came out with some other people that were being arrested. The names she put out there were Bill Gates, Fauci, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, that's the guy I said would be arrested. For a man at the beginning of the week that I believe would get arrested this week. Or I mean, I believe he'd get taken out of his position at least. But I guess we'll see. I mean, at this point, like, isn't this all just a big scam played out for everybody?
Well, one of the other scams that just got revealed that I just picked up on yesterday is another Omar type political person. Just like Ilana Omar. So she is basically a refugee from Somalia, right? But her family is rulers, right? And and they were the ones in charge of and brought Marxism, right, communism, into Somalia, and that's their family. Well, we've got another Marxist, family member, and that's basically transplanted himself here into America, specifically into New York, and became the mayor de Blasio.
Wait a minute. So who's de Blasio? Who's this guy?
He's changed his name twice, right? His name.
I've heard that. Yeah. He's a Nazi, right?
A Marxist. Marxist.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. It's all the same. It's all the same.
It's all the same. It's socialism, communism, right? It's the lighter version, but the national socialism, right, is where you have the nationalist that basically say we're the only country, right, to set the standard, right, and that's the nationalism. That's Nazism, right? For the communism that we will bring, right? So it's the same idea. The state overrules the individual freedoms. So either way you go. So they're both evil. But anyway, that was interesting to find out that de Blasio is really, Ilana Omar, cutout. Or the other way around. I guess, he came first. But it's why he has these now he's coming down hard. What he says, tough love on the Jewish people with their funeral, right? Yeah, you have no papers to have a funeral, so you will be arrested. My German intimate, accent. I'll have to work on that a bit. So I didn't queue up anything about that. I kind of caught onto it last night, and I was going to go back and find it today. But I got caught up in this General Flynn letter that was given out to the Bards of War, and I've listened to Bards of War once in a while. He's not very he's not putting out stuff all the time, but he's putting out good stuff when he does. So that YouTube channel, but this was kind of good. I think it's about, he reads the letter from General Flynn, and then he really goes into what I'd say would be a very good description of what's going on, like where we are, how we got here, how we had actually had already lost the country. It was already gone. It's everything. Everyone was already infiltrated. Every government department, every state, every local government, everything was already taken over by China, the deep state. And the deep state is China, is the other point of this. So, and the only way to proceed is to break China. So that's the war. That's what we're in. And Trump coming in at this time, he made some comments about why Trump, he's hearing that people are saying, well, he's just going to try and change it from one faction to another. He used the word faction. And he said it's not the case. And he said, I assure you it's not the case. And on top of that, if you really wanted, to really just take control in another way and another head, why is he, allowing for gun sales to move forward? Why does it, the Department of Tobacco and Firearms, why are they allowing people to do even walk up or drive-through type gun purchases? Why is this the case? All right, if he was really trying to basically just take control for a different faction. So we could go through that, or we can talk a little bit more about where we are with Kim.
No, let's talk about. I mean, we are where we are with Kim. I mean, can we establish that?
All right.
Let's talk about Flint. Go for it.
All right. Well, let me bring this up. Also, just before, let me share my screen with you so we can follow along. This is just a really brief point. Fed Chairman Powell, he came out and he did this speech. I listened to the speech. Pretty standard stuff, about being there to help support, the economy and everything. But what was more interesting is towards the end of this, he took questions like on Zoom. Look. This is not this is quite an unusual. I don't know if it's Zoom or what this app is that they're using. But, he was taking questions from average, everyday people. Now, I would have loved to have been on there and asked some questions, but anyway. So it is worth looking that up. But let's go over to the Bards of War. Turn up the volume. Okay, so here we go. This is basically from April 20th.
The common notion has been that the election of President Donald J. Trump occurred at just the right moment to revive the country and keep it from falling off of the cliff of globalism, New World Order governance, and the complete submission to the economics of scarcity and feudal rule. This perception is at the center of the current understanding of what is known as the Plan, by which a band of Q patriots and a billionaire businessman rose to power to restore America. The fact is that things were far worse than anyone ever realized. What is not appreciated or even understood is that the United States was already over the cliff. We had essentially already been destroyed from within, infiltration instead of invasion, as Q says. The success of the plan was not that the patriots caught the deep state in the final hours of global dominance and their plans for the total destruction of the American vision. It was that the deep state was in mop-up operations after years of careful planning, needing only 4 more years to tie up loose ends. As we the people slept for years, the United States was dismantled from within. Every institution was corrupted: political, legal, educational, corporate, and religious. We were simply living a myth of a constitutional republic, a narrative perpetuated by the mainstream media, a rigged voting system, and a false worship of freedom based on material wealth. We had accepted the lies of the propaganda media as gospel. We had replaced faith in God with faith in news, politics, and advertising. We had handed our freedoms over to the Luciferian elite to control, manipulate, and ultimately destroy. The climb back from the abyss has been a daily grind. As patriots clamor for arrests, the naive understanding of the depth and magnitude of this crisis has prompted doubts and, worse, promoting fears that President Donald J. Trump was actually working an ulterior motive to hand the country over to another faction of deep state puppet masters. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We, the people, lost the country, and in order to fix it, everyone has to experience pain. Only then will we share the understanding of what our duty as Americans is and what we must protect for generations to come. Welcome to the Bards of War podcast. My name is Scott Kesterson. I am the director and producer of the war documentary Bards of War, Fighting is Everything, and you are listening to episode 81, A Letter from General Flynn, Saving a Nation that was already lost.
Okay, I just pause it right there. So that, oh, are you still there? I lost Tank.
Well, here.
Oh, okay. That's right. So that kind of like summary of where we actually are and what the status of things is, I think is really accurate.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's great.
Yeah. So it's more than we're hey, we just joined in just in time to stop the cabal because if it went on any longer, like 8 more years of Hillary, for example, then we would have lost it. No, he's saying that it already was lost, right? The first part, the Obama 8 years, was the final takedown. The rest of it was mop-up operation. Hillary was to come in and just do house cleaning. So that was interesting. Interesting part of it. So now I'm gonna go forward a little bit to get to the letter for Flynn, where Flynn. It starts at 5 minutes and 20 seconds in. And we actually listen to what he has to say.
Through our faith in God. I want to begin today with a letter I recently received from General Flynn, and I think it's appropriate at this moment in time with so much chaos that's reigning around us to read this letter as we begin today's episode. It reads like this. Scott, our first president, George Washington, a man of uncommon common sense, was no wallflower, or one who sought safe spaces from what he knew was his destiny and the destiny of our nation. He was the first true American patriot. He was a warrior, a thinker, a leader, and a man of deep faith. And thank God he was. He witnessed fear at the founding of our nation, but inevitably knew from the faith in God and the idea of liberty, to overcome the sense of fear and uncertainty, America would need to be raised up by its bootstraps and step into the unknown. Although we face different circumstances today, there is still that same sense of instilled fear, and America is again stepping into the unknown and once again needs to be pulled up by its bootstraps. One of General Washington's most quoted statements is as follows: "It is impossible to govern the world without God. It is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey His will, to be grateful for His benefits, and humbly implore His protection and favor." End quote. Before battles and other extreme times he faced, General Washington would routinely seek divine guidance. If there was ever a time in our history where our leaders must seek divine guidance and inspiration, now is the time. Yes, we need all the experts that understand the complexities of America's economic system and how it drives the world economy. But all must seek inspiration from God. He is the only one who has been with us from the very founding of our nation right up through today. God's continuing commitment to our nation is everlasting, and He will not let us down in this moment, but only if we seek His strength and wisdom. At this moment, if digital soldiers ask anything from our leaders, they need to ask His light to continue to shine upon America and enable us to fight through this monumental challenge, to achieve victory without sacrificing liberty. God bless, Mike. Hey.
Okay, so that's the letter from Flynn. So he's really, talking about, we have to turn to God, and it's really, if we listen to the first part of this, he's talking about how we've replaced, our freedom by listening to the news media, to the politicians, to commercialism, right? And I think the point being made is that you know we've have made a new God, right? We replaced God, the God that we've relied upon for the creation of this country, and to and all things good, right? To promote things
Right.
that are good. That all you got to say? All right, fine.
No, I just got cut off screen. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think that what's kind of like was the point is to we need to really just know that God is on our side, but we have to take action, right? Because what we've experienced here is Obama coming in as renegade, and completely selling out. And I didn't know this, but Obama sold the rights to eminent domain to China.
Right.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
That's
Part of. I think that has to do with Anna von Reitz, actually. Because Anna von Reitz, she actually claimed all the in-ground assets and tried to sell it over to China, put it on their market for trade.
Interesting. Yeah, so I know that there was a deal where they were given through eminent domain 10 10 square kilometers of land in every 50 state as kind of a settlement, because Bill Clinton sent them payment in gold, but it was actually tungsten, gold plated tungsten.
Jeez. A dirtbag.
Yeah. So that was that. So I heard about that, but I never heard this particular part, which I thought was kind of interesting. So anyway, I'll go ahead and play a little bit more here.
Patriots, this is an amazing time we live in, and so much of what we face on a daily basis is counterintuitive. Our instincts are to fight with the emotions, to wage war literally with hands, fists, and swords. But what we're needing most in every single thing we do is the temperance, grace, and commitment to God Almighty. God is what helped us build this country. And as we anchor ourselves deeper in faith and humbly place ourselves before God in thanks for all that we have, the world begins to shape differently. We begin to see clearly. And those that despise God, those that reject God, are seen for who they really are. Our nation is a nation founded upon God, upon the belief in the Almighty Creator. And that is something we must always hold dear. So let's step back just a moment and take a look at where we were when President Trump and the Patriots came to power. Over the 8 years of the renegade Hussein Obama, our country was literally sold lock, stock, and barrel. It was the final phases of destruction of America. Industry was being choked out through the taxation and policies of a fake environmental war. Foreign powers were being allowed to wage propaganda wars on U.S. soil through the purchase of media, advertising, the manipulation of mainstream media by purchasing stories as opposed to real journalism, and in the most intense propaganda war ever waged in the history of humankind, the American public was besieged by a distortion of truth that literally reshaped the way we saw the world. The entire corporate media structure, in fact, had become weaponized against all of us. For so many, we could feel it. But in that process, the depth of the corruption and rancor that had been waged upon our nation was obscured. During those 8 years, one of the key things that the renegade administration did was to lock out whole sections of our country, every opportunity it had, through BLM, through use of wilderness designations, to prevent industry from doing its job. But what Americans didn't know is at the same time, the Obama administration had signed over the rights of eminent domain to China. What that meant is China was given the right to purchase any federally controlled land for its own purposes right beneath our feet. The Obama administration was the most treasonous and deceitful administration in the history of America. And quite frankly, it may go down as one of the most treasonous administrations in the history of man. They encouraged the purchase of corporations by China, and Chinese got smart. Rather than trying to go through the FTC where they would purchase a majority share in a corporation, they began to buy significant control shares, like 30–40% of a corporation that didn't need federal approval. That was instrumental in shaping the direction of corporations, both in what technologies they developed and how their attitude was towards the United States. In the end, the investors were brought along because investors were put at the mercy of corporations that were no longer significantly controlled by American interests, or worse, interests that had any interest in the American dream. Over the 8 years, we saw a transfer of wealth and transfer of industrial base to China at an unprecedented level. And all of this ended with the expectation that Hillary Rodham Clinton would assume the final 8 years of presidency. Now, why do I say final 8 years? That was simply the mop-up phase. What most don't appreciate is when President Trump and the Patriots came to power, the country was already in control of China and the deep state. Keep in mind that the Chinese Communist Party and the deep state are synonymous, that the whole world organization and headquarters was going to be shifted to China through a series of events that would have collapsed the dollar to a point where the world would have begged for a replacement currency. That replacement currency initially would have arisen as what they call a basket of currencies, or an SDR. And then from that, the yuan, the Chinese currency, would have become the predominant currency. For those that were thinking that America could fight back, it would have been impossible. The military had been so significantly compromised that we would have lost a conflict with China and potentially Russia, not because of our ability, but because all of our secrets had been given away. Our materials had been compromised. Our military would have been at the mercy of an enemy that already knew everything it was going to do and controlled it from within. Digital backdoors were put in through all of our electronics. China had access to our communications. They had access to our avionics. They had access to our satellites. This was all master planned over many, many years, but the culmination period was the 8 years of the renegade Hussein Obama. The final event is unclear exactly how it would have played out. Through research and through what we've been able to compile, there seems to have been a plan to have a limited war that would have impacted directly on U.S. soil. Most of that war probably would have been fought from assets owned and controlled by the deep state, but Russia would have had the blame. Strategic sites in the U.S., most likely red cities and red states, would have been devastated. Constitution would have been suspended, and a process then moving forward to take more and more control in a socialist and communist fashion over the nation. Throughout the course of this event, there was most likely always planned what we now know as the coronavirus, or COVID-19. This attack is insidious if you think about it. The virus is real. The pandemic was created through the media push for fear. And as we observe what's been happening, we can put the pieces together and realize just how bad it would have been had they been left to do their bidding. We can see that the stockpiles that we were promised from masks and ventilators, even though they themselves weren't necessary, weren't there. And they weren't there intentionally. Because if the media had been left to spin up its narrative of fear, people would have gone for those things and the panic would have ensued to a new level. Through panic and fear, you're able to instrument the most draconian of rules. You can suspend a constitution. You can have people give away all their rights. That experiment was run successfully with the engineered attacks of 9/11 and the implementation of the Patriot Act. They already knew they could control us. The end game on this coronavirus was the vaccination program. A global vaccination program led by the illustrious Bill Gates Foundation in coordination with the World Health Organization to administer a vaccine that would more than likely carry an RFID chip that would be able to bond to your RNA, meaning that you would never be able to get it out of your system. As that rolled through, the implementation of 5G on a global network built by Huawei, that system, which was controlled and operated by the deep state and the Chinese Communist Party, would have been implemented, and every single person would have been put on the grid and controlled, monitored, and tracked through an artificial intelligence system designed by Google. We were sold out, and every one of these American companies that left in one way or another was part of the selling of the American dream and American liberty. In those measures, we can never forget. And as we push forward, we must remember that all companies that come back have a responsibility now to make an atonement to America. And part of what we're witnessing is that atonement right now. There's a lot of fear going on right now, and it's misplaced. It's the fear of what the COVID virus is doing, the suspension of the Constitution, the claims of FEMA being activated, even some crazy ideas that somehow everybody's going to be rounded up and put in this vaccination program, and President Donald J. Trump is somehow working on the back end with other deep state people to ultimately turn us into some new world order country. And every time I hear that, I point to one example that no one's paying attention to. No president, no leader would ever allow gun sales and encourage gun sales during a crisis that was intended to take your freedoms away. That one point alone should refocus everybody and realize that our president is fighting for us, not against us. But the understanding of the complexity of this problem is still extremely naive in most people's minds. All you have to do is look around and see how much power the media has on a global scale to realize the depth of this fight. And the fight, sadly, isn't against them as it is to free us from the propaganda control that the mainstream media has over each one of us. The world willingly, without resistance, accepted the narrative that there was a pandemic and willingly stopped their work, went to their homes, and waited for it to pass. There is no question that this virus is real, but to the level that it was promoted to a global fear pandemic, comparing it to things like the Spanish flu is pure nonsense. That was a media-spun narrative to get everybody to comply and to agree to losing their rights and ultimately giving in to a mass vaccination program with the intent of chipping everybody in the world. We are as much of this problem as anything, and we have to face that, and we own it. Because until we start to realize and accept that the media controls a great deal of our lives, the Patriots' work can only go so fast. The Great Awakening is the center of all of this. It's awakening us to the realization of what truth is and how our perception of truth and reality is controlled by a seditious and treasonous media system that is global and deeply implanted in our daily lives. In order to fix this problem, it is not simply a matter of resetting the Constitution back to pre-1871. It is not simply an act of giving people's rights back. Pay attention to the depth of the corruption. The incredible thing about this fake pandemic is we are now seeing how deep this corruption goes. We understand that the World Health Organization is one of the center points of their control, and that they have literally weaponized our medical system and our modern medicine against us, aligned with Big Pharma and obviously aligned with the Chinese Communist Party. China is deeply embedded with this, and like it or not, in the end, they have to pay a price. This war was not just against the deep state. This war is also against a nation, China, that's one of the most draconian tyrannies in modern history. So in order to fix it, you have to break it. And what we are witnessing with this coronavirus is just that. We've had to break the control of the deep state gridlock. This brings to mind Deuteronomy 3.
Okay, so that's a lot of information, but it's so well put together, right? And this is only 18 minutes out of this Bards of War, and we've listened to probably about 2/3 of it. And you can tell that this is laying out everything that is the actual case and what we've experienced, and also saying where we're at.
That's the most accurate description that I've heard outside of our very limited circle.
Right.
Yes. I mean, every single thing he said, we've been talking about for a year.
Yeah. No, it's so well done. That's why I wanted to go through it in detail. I mean, I it's not really the case that we go over so many things in this much detail, but it's just so well put together, and really lining up like everything. So if you want to get someone a good couple of pieces of videos besides our videos, this would be one of the ones that I would send to people. Say what's going on when they want to know what's going on, especially if they haven't been red pilled at all. That's such a solid, comprehensive breakdown of these, dude. Great. So this is another thing to go viral. Let's this particular one from Bards of War, EP 881 episode, episode 81. Letter from Flynn, saving the nation that was already lost. So it's I'm just so. I guess we'll go ahead and we'll round it out. We'll go ahead and continue. Let's see. I think I can skip ahead. Otherwise, he does go into some biblical talk here and there, which is which is good.
See, I see about to read Deuteronomy 30 and 19.
Yeah. You want to go through that?
It's my favorite scripture.
All right. Well, let's
No,
go.
let it go. Yeah, let it play it out. It's good.
Let's go.
Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or be in dread of them, for it is the Lord your God who goes with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Those words are more important than ever right now. We are literally witnessing the transformation of our system from one that was already in the globalist camp back to one that will be a sovereign nation. But that process is painful because we have to root out the corruption in ideologies, values, and allegiance that is rooted in every level of our system. One thing I know, which I find interesting, is how many people I have known that pleaded for the military to be involved, to seize back control when the Hussein administration was at its worst. The irony is that you're actually witnessing that. Much of what we are going through is what I would call martial law light. The states are complying with the federal directives based on a national state of emergency, and all 50 states have signed on to that, which gives President Trump unprecedented control. But he's not using all that control. He's simply applying the pressure to make them do what's right. And in the process, we are witnessing the good governors and the governors that have sold their allegiance to China. We are witnessing the good mayors and the mayors that have sold their allegiance to China. We are witnessing the good doctors and those doctors that have sold their allegiance to Big Pharma. We are literally seeing the whole system exposed before our very eyes. And so for those patriots that are now screaming end of the world and FEMA, you're using your emotions and you're not thinking logically. You need to step back and go back to what I said a few minutes ago. No president that was trying to take over this country through some devious means would protect the manufacturing of ammunition and guns, protect the use of gun ranges, and protect the sales of guns across this country. Footnote on that, just so I emphasize it again, is that in New Jersey, one of the most draconian anti-2A states in the country, the Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco, BATF, has allowed parking lot and drive-through sales of guns. They overruled the state itself. That's incredible. We are literally witnessing a fight to protect our rights, but what is not being appreciated is how deeply embedded the deep state was. And if anything, that should shake everybody to its core, because the Patriots fight at the strategic level. The plan is working. What is now being demanded is that we, the people, stand, just like they've done now in Virginia, just like they've done now in Michigan. It is time for the people to make a stand and make it clear, because the president is behind us and leading us in so many ways. These times demand an unbelievable level of faith, and faith is blind. You have to literally put your faith in God and trust that the president that is there, that came at a time and against all odds, is there with God. And I know that may be hard for some to take, but it's not for me. Whether or not President Trump is a deeply practicing Christian is irrelevant to me. What I do know is he acknowledges and he protects faith. And in his capacity, I can assure you that over the last 3 years, he has become a man more deeply anchored in faith than perhaps he was at the beginning. But there is no question that his timing now is blessed and it's graced by the hand of God. And it is up to us now to put deep commitment in faith with God, to give the greater strength to God's hand to continue this fight forward, which is literally a fight of good versus evil. Research at this point in time is more important than ever. You have to look past fear porn. There is so much of this craziness going on both sides, and it's only going to get worse because the deep state is losing control. They are going to throw everything they have at you. And in order to avoid being consumed by that, you have to research, you have to take a step back. Always begin with faith and prayer, and always return to the fight with knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge provides clarity. The narratives are also going to increase on the...
I just stopped for a moment. So, they are going to be turning up and throwing everything at us. We've noticed that the censorship has been turned up, right? So a lot of the channels are losing their channel. YouTube's just taking them down. The big ones haven't gone yet, right? So X22 Report, it's still there, right? In Pursuit of Truth, it's still there. The Red Pill 70, all of these that have a big audience, but they do know, all of them are witnessing that their numbers are shrinking on who's viewing it. They're being turned down, right? They do it slowly, but they may even do it quickly at some point. When these indictments start, when the FISA is declassed, we might see all of these just disappear. Great if they were able to maintain them. Maybe Trump does something back again with YouTube and Google again, right? But we can expect that we might just lose these channels, right? And all the work is gone when they shut down your channel. You can't go in and get your videos anymore. They're gone.
Right.
Right? It's gone.
Sure.
So if it's not backed up, if it's not on another platform, then it's gone. That's why I think we really need to start, making this where we actually just start on another platform. I think BitChute is a place to be. There are others. I just know that In Pursuit of Truth has made a stand there, and he's building up subscribers. Right? He's got 40,000 subscribers there. If they have 40,000 subscribers there, we can have 40,000 subscribers. We would break through, get to more people leaving YouTube.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we can make little commercials and throw it back on YouTube on these channels while they exist, right? And maybe they still survive, right? But
Maybe.
I would expect as this gets intense, as this gets heated up, that we're going to see that everything gets shut down, unless it's CBS, ABC, MSNBC, anything related to that is the only thing that will be on YouTube.
I really don't think. I mean, I have nothing to base this on, but my personal vibe is that won't happen. That
Okay.
we will, but I agree with you, by the way, that we should go to BitChute. We should.
Yeah.
But I also have every intention of taking YouTube back because it's a great platform.
Sure.
It's the best technology, and it's really so well made, and it's a huge opportunity for people to have a voice in many, many, many different ways.
Yeah.
And the fact that they've manipulated it so much and they've buried good content and they've allowed pedophiles to sell kids, but buried messages about the truth is disgusting. Right. So they have. I mean, there has to be laws. If there isn't laws about that, which there is obviously, but there should be new laws made that say basically you no longer allowed to own this business and run it in any way because you are compromised. Right. And you give it to people, that are, I don't know, able to. I don't know if they're able to buy it, but they're willing to run it the right way.
Right.
Give it back to the entire collective if you have to.
Yeah. I would say that one of the things that is very obvious when we talk about the technology piece, that they've created a censorship system, right? Well, who should be in charge of the censorship system is every individual who's viewing. You censor it for your own personal preference, right? I definitely don't want to have anything.
You can put blocks on there for your kids. I mean, you decide what's on there for your kids, and you make a better system. It wouldn't even be hard to do.
Right. I mean, this is where you decentralize, the control into the hands of every individual. When I was designing Persona Me, my social networking e-commerce platform, right? I put biometrics in there to track every individual, but gave all the power to the individual. We had none, zero. So they're the ones that got to decide. They had their preference on what they wanted to see. They got to sell their data if they wanted to or not. And they could sell it anonymously if they wanted to, right? So giving the control over the individual, is where the power should lie. Because if you don't give them the power, someone will take it. Even if they slyly do it this way or push it in over in this direction or not, if you don't have the power, then someone else is going to be using the power. So it's there. You just have to make sure that it's in the hands of the people.
I totally agree with that, and I also think with things like that, like if I was allowed, let's say, to sell off something like that, and you give it to somebody that you believe in their character and what they're going to do, and you basically make it so, but you can't sell it. You can't make it very profitable, then turn around and sell it to somebody who would buy it and turn it into something corrupt.
Right.
It has to serve the same purpose no matter what.
Right. That's part of the license. That's part of the licensing. It's kind of like the open source licensing. There's a lot of things I don't like about the open source, but there's a lot of things I do like about it. The way to take open source is exactly what I just said. To change the where the power is in the hands of the individuals in regards to the censorship. You could do the same thing with open source, right? And you could do things collaboratively, right? But allow people to sell it, right? And make profit with it, right? But in doing so, that means the ones that are selling it, they get to make money from it, and you can't stop them. So it's kind of like intellectual property where people are allowed to make money with it. So that's where the problem lies in this open source. It's all up. That's why. David Rotten Steele, a new name, right? David Rotten Steele, right, has put this out there so that no one had ownership. It was the community. It was the socialism, communism idea, utopian view, right? But no one makes any money unless you have money, and then you harness that group of intellectual property for your own benefit. It's a great way of developing. Right, to come up with the best thing. Hey, I improved it. I uploaded it. Hey, I improved. So a lot of the good-natured, good-hearted people that want to contribute in the tech world, right? Hey, I'm good at this. I'm good at that, and you're good at this. We all just keep working towards improvement. But you don't get the benefit out of it, other than you get a good product to use for yourself, which is great. But you can't maintain that on an ongoing basis, right? You lose the ability to actually profit from it, which means you can't continue to do it, right? Unless you continue, to do this from where you're doing just for the goodness of everyone, right? Which is great if you have other financial means and you want to contribute that way, right? So it goes back to these same principles of freedom. But you should also be able to profit from what you do. You should be able to gain wealth. To pursue happiness, part of that is pursuing wealth. Even if your pursuit of wealth is not monetary wealth. It could be spiritual wealth, right? It could be the wealth of the family, the community, whatever it is. But you're free to choose to do that. And when you're not making money, you can't eat. You obviously switch your preference around.
Right.
So, anyway,
it's really incredible. I just hearing that whole thing. I'm always fascinated by the kind-hearted, good folks that are devoutly Christian, right? But whenever I hear these things, like whenever someone says faith is blind, I was always like, where did they get that from? Because that's not true. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So you have substance and evidence. What? That's not blind. And this idea of just blindly following after anything, in my opinion, is ridiculous. Now I don't. What he's saying, I agree with. Hey, President made some good moves, but just be like, trust the plan. No, you should not do that. Because you should definitely question everything. Because you have the right to.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you don't have faith. It means that, because the Bible also says, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. So, prove it. There's nothing wrong with us taking people and saying, I am not going to believe you just on faith. Prove it.
Right.
Because we have that right. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that it wouldn't make you less Christian to demand proof, because the Bible says that too. The Bible doesn't say the faith is blind, ever. Those two words never appear next to each other, not once. But I don't know, that's just a personal thing. I couldn't think about anything else, so I said that. Sorry. but I do appreciate everything else he had to say. I thought it was really well put together.
Yeah, no, it's good when you find something like this, is so you can help people with something that is it gives you a broad perspective of the whole thing that is happening, right? But lines it up and feeds it to you line by line, so you get a complete picture by the end. And and that's difficult to come up with. I mean, we give a lot of truth here, like we give it in segments, right? What we're talking about today, but to give that broad view, yeah, how do you give the story of what been going on with the Mono World Holding Trust, right? Right, in like 30 minutes, and put that in a way that everyone can consume, right? On a very easy basis.
Yeah, I don't know. I've definitely tried. I mean, I've tried to put things out like that. I've tried to break things down, and it is a lot.
I know you once in a while you go on a rant, right? And it's, hey, that's a great 15 minutes, right? Boom, right? So that's one video. There you go. So those things are, they're inspired pieces, right? The flow comes through, right? And everyone can resonate with it, right? That's amazing when that happens, right? So, but it is hard to come up with those, right? We're really good at. I mean, I've got also, there's a piece up here. I know that a newsflash: Kim Jong-un is dead, right?
What?
So this is up for today, right? Is it true? I don't know. It looks like it's a news report, but it's not coming.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Well, here I'll let me go back. Let me bring that back up. Okay. Let me share with you. Now, again, I don't know if this is accurate. It's a KETK, right, with a NBC little emblem there. So.
News, as multiple media outlets are now reporting the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un has died. The 36-year-old dictator reportedly died when a heart surgery went wrong. Because of the nature of the secret regime in North Korea, the claims of his death have been difficult to verify. It was on Monday we learned the leader was in a poor state. We know there is a family history of bad heart health, his father dying in 2011 from a heart attack. It is unclear who will now take over for North Korea.
So,
that sounds to me like they took him out with fentanyl. I mean, you see why he's been siding with Trump, right?
Right.
Basically been an ally.
Right. Well, it is interesting to see who is going to take over. I just saw a piece yesterday about his sister, and his sister has kind of become his right hand man kind of thing, right? She's been there as his personal assistant, helping him with everything. But then he's got an uncle. It's all about their bloodline, right? Because their bloodline is that of God, right? That's they're gods in their culture. So it has to follow
Makes the
that.
choice a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's another brother I think that's there also, but he's a playboy type, not looked at as having that ability. But his sister may be able to hold position. She holds power, but it's a male centric culture. And so will all of these 60 to 80-year-old leaders follow a woman, right? Now it may be that she's like a caretaker, while her children or his children come of age. One of them comes of age. They're all too young. Now again, is this true? I know Trump seemed to be, kind of making some implying that maybe he's okay. But this is coming from NBC, Deep State News. So is it they don't want him to make peace, right? So could this could this be false?
See, but that's the thing that just doesn't make sense. Like what are these guys? How are these guys able to continue this? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're openly slandering a president, and you are perpetuating propaganda to convince people that the Spanish flu is wiping out humanity. That was a great point he made. It is absurd to compare the coronavirus to the Spanish flu. And there is video after video highlighting that exact correlation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there was the Spanish flu, and now there's never been anything like the coronavirus. What are you talking about? This is absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous.
Oh,
you can't compare it to the Spanish flu.
I guess it's kind of one of the other parts of it that you got to absorb everything and say, well, China's already bought all of the news organizations. China's already everywhere in all the corporations. It's another reason that these special purpose vehicles, SPVs, are being funded. There's more trillions coming through the pipeline. Just a little side note, coming through. But to fund buying up municipal bonds, also stocks, to take back control over all of these corporations that China has been just purchasing 20% of, 30% of, that don't require any special permission to own, so they've been buying up the corporations. So this is a way of acquiring back all of those corporations. And he also spoke about atonement of those companies, right? Doesn't it seem that these companies seem to have kind of a different attitude, and they're coming back, and they want to be more supportive now of American workers? It does seem to be that there is a change in attitude of these, globalist companies, right?
Sure.
It does seem as though that there is a change, and I do see that the other change that happened with Trump in the last few days, maybe last week or so, but it was an arc happening where China is being made the bad guy. From China being good, we're working with them, or everything's peachy keen. Hey, we made the trade deal. Now, hey, we know it's come from Wuhan, China, and we know it came from the labs. Now
they made a trade deal and then sent us the virus.
Yes.
That was the first thing they sent us in trade.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, but it's this virus is being used to with what was it, Taekwondo? Use your enemy's force against them. It's being now, that energy is now being sent right back to China. Now they're being changed in the public persona of them being the bad guys. So that means now all the politicians now that are out there supportive of these draconian methods are now going to be on the side of traitors. And I would say that what's going to come about is we're going to see people being called out as traitors just for supporting Democrats. I think we're going to see that happen. You're a traitor. Right? When they're used to identity politics.
I think it's a good point, and honestly, it's really, if people could see how really offensive and just disgusting the behavior has been.
Yeah. Everything
that's beautiful about being American, everything that's wonderful about being human, they have scoffed at and mocked and ridiculed. This has become a common culture, right? Just all these disgusting habits that they put out in the mainstream, right? Now, I think it's a much smaller percentage of the population than they make it seem.
Yeah.
But because they make it so mainstream, I had this, little emo, shaved head, pink-haired chubby lesbian girl the other day was so disgusting because I walked into the store without a mask on. And I'm like, look, I'm medically sensitive. Because everybody is medically sensitive to breathing in their own carbon dioxide and waste. That's why your body breathes it out, right? It's ridiculous.
Okay.
And you can't even spread the virus that way, right?
So it's a great tactic, right? So you said you're medically sensitive, right? You made identity politics version. I know, you used identity politics, right? You said, my identity is medically sensitive. How are you affected? How are you basically coming at me on my identity? Right?
Yeah,
so,
I know. I should drop that.
Right?
So I identify as not wearing a mask.
Yeah, go to that level. But I think that next step, you might want to try this. You know, the next time that get that same whatever identity comes at you that wants to support. Hey, you're not wearing a mask. Traitor! You're a traitor. What do you mean a traitor? I mean, how shocking they will get like a wake up call. You're a traitor. Traitor? How can you call me a traitor? Right? Throwing that identity on them is going to resonate. I think that's what we're going to see happening as this level is coming.
You really think so, though? I mean, this country, in the past 3 years, you've had people. I mean, like baby boomers. Not like a young generation, even like, people that are grown, that grew up loving America, right? Burning their flag and saying things like, "When was America ever great?" I mean, what? Well,
Here, just think about this. I hear what you're saying, right? You know, they don't understand it. Number one. So when you go back to the like you or me, right? You know, being a Caucasian male, being accused of being a racist. What do you mean? We're not racist, but we're shocked, right? What do you mean? Right. Same thing with them, but it's like the other people around us. Oh, someone else heard someone else call me a racist. What about those people around me, right? So in identity politics, it's the other people around you. So if you're calling someone out as being a traitor, right? They're gonna know. They're saying, "What do you mean? I'm not a traitor. That doesn't even mean anything. This country is horrible anyway. Of course I'm a traitor." But
sounds like traitor talk to me.
It sounds like traitor talk. Yeah, exactly. So they reinforce it themselves, but it's the people around them start picking up on this. And as there is a shift in these energies towards supportive of America and independence and of what's going on, because we are in the majority, right? They will then start feeling what that means to be a traitor, to call them out on what they are, right? So, but I think that's where we're headed. I think that we're going to see this come about as it might take 2 months, it might take 6 months. Maybe it's after the election. Actually, the election is coming in 6 months, isn't it? Yes, we are in May, May 1st. May, June, July, August, September, October. Okay, so yeah, we have to go through 6 months and a few days. So 6 months, and we're in the election. So,
well, I was witnessing with Kim today, and she was rebellious. She's like, "I'm sick of these guys," right? Like you can just feel the energy, like even when she texted me tonight. It's like, and I get it. Me too. It's like, come on already. Like, how long? I mean, because you got to think. It's like there's got to be a ricochet effect, right? Yeah. Like we feel this way right now. Look at how much that sentiment has grown. More and more and more people being like, "How is this possible?" Right? And eventually you keep making people feel this way. You'll have to get to somebody who's in a position that creates the thin veil, right? Where there's someone who can do something, but they've been in line with it for so long that they have to flip sides. It just seems like it would have to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Somebody would be like, "Enough. This is ridiculous. What are we doing? What are we doing with our life?"
Exactly. Well, I think that it's part of this great awakening, right? These people are going to be awoken to where they're at. Talk about what woke really will mean, right? You know, these people that think that they're woke, that are really not. Well, they're just under a particular woke software programming version 12, right? They've just been, you know, on a program, right? And now,
Right.
you know, it's breaking down. So lots of good stuff like that is going on. So, well, we're into an hour and 20 minutes, so maybe we should break it here.
Yes, sir.
Come back to. Why don't you hang on for just a minute, and we'll say goodbye to everyone, and we'll talk since we didn't get to talk beforehand. So give me a moment.
Sure thing.
All right, bye everyone. Go ahead and subscribe.
Have a great night, everybody.
Go to wwg1wga.love and at least register there in case we need that as a way of reaching people. So go ahead and put your email address in there. We'll use that maybe to send out blogs, something along those lines. But otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Like and share in case it helps get to one extra person. All right, bye-bye.